my book channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Hannah. Hi, I finally finished a book so I can do a book review. So I started a book Instagram. I'll put it on the screen here. It's hanreadsbooks_. I hope the lighting is okay. I'm trying out my ring light. I'll link that below. But anyway, this is my book channel, so that's beside the point. I'm gonna do a book review of Blood Orange by Harriet Tyce. Really easy to read. I read it in about a week, I believe. This book is only 300 pages long, so it's a very short read. I said on my Instagram that I would give this book a 6 out of 10 overall. I don't know, I don't really quite know how I felt about all of the characters. Like, each one was very problematic at best. Flaws like most characters do, not all characters are perfect or anything. Just, I don't know, all three of the characters in here just irks me in some type of way. So anyway, if you've never read this book, it is about a woman named Alison who is currently having an affair with a guy named Patrick, which is her solicitor. Alison is a barrister, so she, you know, helps people with their court cases, etc., tries to get them a lower sentence, and she ends up being offered her first ever murder case, which is quite a big deal because she had never really been doing cases that big, like murder case, trying to get someone either, you know, if they did the murder or not, trying to get them a lesser sentence. Alison is currently having an affair with Patrick, who she works with, and I just want to give a trigger warning here, just before I talk about what else happens in this book, because trigger warning involving alcohol, we'll bleep that, but in very intense sexual scenes. For reading that, like, it gets a bit graphic, like towards the end. You're a bit like, what the hell? Anyway, so Alison is having an affair, like I said. It's been offered her first murder case, and because she spends all her time with Patrick, etc., every Friday night or so she would end up going to the bar near work and just end up getting absolutely obliterated, so much so that she just would black out and not remember where she was, and she ends up falling asleep in her chambers, and her husband and daughter find her in her chambers very just hungover from. Alison is found drunk in her chambers, and she has no memory of what happened the night before. However, she says, like, the home life, her husband is just never really home. Well, he's more so home with the kid, with Matilda. At one point I didn't realise, it took me a while to realise that they also call their daughter Matilda Tilly, and I got confused because I thought, wait, did they have two children? And then I was like, no, it's her nickname. So anyway, her first murder case, and her and Patrick are having an affair anyway, and this murder case just meant they got to spend a lot more time together. And Alison seems to enjoy the excitement that she has with Patrick. She just doesn't have that anymore with her husband, and even when she tries to be exciting with her husband, he just doesn't seem to care or want to be that way with her or something. So they try and reignite the flame and end up going to Brighton for just literally one night. They go to Brighton, and Alison gets drunk again. So much so that she, like I said, she has moments where if she gets drunk, she can't just have one drink. She has to black out, but she doesn't remember anything from that night. Now, her husband was someone in the beginning that I kind of thought, oh, he seems okay. He just seems like he's just not really that in love with his wife anymore, perhaps. But you know, when your wife has probably got an alcohol problem, it's probably hard to try and justify how to help her when you've been telling her that even she was drunk at 2 in the afternoon and her friends came round and her friends left because they they weren't okay with it. Like, I'm drinking at like 2 in the afternoon if it's someone's birthday or something. If you have to have a party early because your kids will be in bed by like 7 p.m, etc., then fair enough. But I think there comes a point with alcohol that you know, just know your limits. It's kind of, you kind of know. They go off to Brighton and try and rekindle their marriage. But this is where you realise that the husband is a bit of a dick, to be honest. A bit of a dickhead, because Alison was like, make an effort, fair enough, and chose to wear a outfit that her husband actually bought for her like 3 Christmases ago, that she'd never worn. So, you know, there's an effort on both parts here, and then her husband just ends up ruining the night. A horrible person when you're drunk, which Alison's husband is a therapist. Well, he lost his previous job, made redundancy, ended up becoming like a stay-at-home dad and just working from home. So hence why Alison is always at work, because she'd been making more money, etc., and just, you know, keeping the family in the house and all that stuff. Like, another person is more likely to work more to try and help out, which is a fair enough. Really something that I was a bit like, what? This kind of came out of nowhere. So Alison decided that, you know what, I need to spend more time with her daughter, so she takes her to a park. And Matilda loves playing hide and seek, so they play hide and seek, and she covers the ride for like 2 minutes, like 60 seconds, not a long time at all. But the thing is, you literally can't, if you take your eyes off your children for like 3 seconds, they can, you know, especially playing hide and seek in a public place. Minor judgment, she could have just done like 30 seconds, but because Matilda insisted on her counting to 2 minutes, when Alison has finished counting, she can't find her daughter anywhere in this park, and obviously as a parent you panic. You're like, what? Where has she gone? How, like, has she been taken? Like, immediate panic sets in, and loads of people start running around this massive park in London looking for her daughter. And yeah, this bit, like, it was really intense in the book, and I really liked the pace of this chapter, this whole thing happening, and I thought, wow, if more stuff like this was going on in this book, I would have enjoyed it a bit more. But kind of feel like it was just thrown in there for like suspense factor. Her daughter ends up being found at about 7 p.m, and this is when her husband has arrived. But before her daughter comes running up to her and wants her mum, the husband is just this is where you realise the husband is just not a nice person. He's just horrible to her, which I think he just resents the fact. This is where it should have clicked in my brain, but it didn't, because I was like, oh, maybe someone knows about them. And at this point, Alison had been receiving anonymous text messages saying, like, just basically she'd been receiving anonymous texts whenever she had just seen Patrick or left Patrick, and then you start to think she's being followed or someone knows about her affair. Turns out the person that knew about her affair the whole time was her husband, and he'd installed cameras in their house. This is where it gets really, like, creepy, to be honest. Like, this stalking in general just is so creepy, and I personally, like, I don't want to get too much into it, but one of my ex-boyfriends decided to stalk me for quite a while before he got the gist that I wanted nothing to do with him, because it started to freak me out. He would just sit outside my house, would turn up at my work, and just stand like opposite the counter wanting to talk to me. And oh god, honestly, that time in my life was so, I just wouldn't, like, if anyone has experienced stalking in any way, shape or form, you know how horrible it is. So anyway, so that he knew about their affair, so he installs cameras in their house, and confronts Alison with a video of her and Patrick in their living room, and I just want to trigger warning here, because there is, in this book, there's heavily like heavily inflicted, and like it comes to a point where you know in yourself, like reading it, you know that when someone says no, like no or stop, like it. Her husband knew about this the whole time, was stalking them, and it turns out he was the one sending them the anonymous texts. So she is confronted, and her husband kicks her out and says, I don't want you to live here anymore. And as this happens, I think I may have skipped ahead a bit, but anyway, Patrick has been, back to rape, Patrick has now been accused of 2 different women, and one woman being like famous person's wife or something, and public indecency because they were caught on a park, which, you know, indecent exposure. And at this point, Patrick has been accused of rape, and obviously Alison really wants to believe he did not. But because of her experience in her own home, when she told him to stop and he did not comply, you could only just imagine how he would be with other women, you know? So Alison is now currently in the Travelodge, trying to get her murder case all ready, and her murder case is due to go to trial like in a week or so. And this is where it gets sad. She's about to go into her first trial hearing for her client's murder trial thing. The whole chambers is running around and saying, have you heard, have you heard? Alison's like, heard what? I don't know. What are you on about? And Patrick threw himself in front of a train, which in itself, but also it happens, I don't know, suicide is just so anyway, the ending of this book is very triggering, to say the least. This book heavily has some disturbing themes. I don't know, like the sexual nature of this book was hard to read. I found myself kind of with my heart in mouth at some points, and the ending of this well, not abrupt, it just seemed a bit like it was just done for shock value, and just a way to wrap up the book, if you see what I mean. So Alison is confronted by this video of her in a hotel room in Brighton, where her husband has essentially sexually assaulted her unconscious body, which is the most disturbing sentence I have said. And her husband is not to help him, because she clearly feels violated by him, the fact that he invaded the privacy of their home, and she realises that his gentleman's club is a really disturbing one, obviously, for people that are into weird sexual disturbing stuff. And I don't know, the way this book ended, I just felt like that him dying was just a little abrupt, and I wrap up the ending. So Alison or anything, and then you're kind of left thinking, is she going to be charged with his murder, or is she going to get away with it? But you know, they have the funeral for him, etc., and turns out she does not get charged with his murder. I mean, because he committed suicide, but she could have helped him, she just chose not to. It's just a bit, the ending just kind of really irritated me, and I would give this book a 6 out of 10, because I did like the pace of it. It was easy to read. However, all of the characters in it, like the 3 main characters, were very problematic, to say the least. This was my book review of Blood Orange by Harriet. I'll leave my Instagram below, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Thank you.